Wow. Well, where's the bill? Uh-oh. Yeah. Okay, I see why the paper towels. This is going to be fun. The latter, I'm afraid.
Go for it.
Oh my God.
Hermetically sealed.
I thought that's how they always came.
Yeah.
Now, nobody gave me a scissors or a knife.
Got it.
Bill's already got it.
What's the Scott motto? Be prepared. Be prepared. What's the slogan?
He's the man who's prepared.
You just did it, too.
No, but wait.
Bill?
The mechanical man.
Boy, whoever wrapped this up was serious.
Contaminated bells around.
And while they're at it, we're gonna do that one.
Where's the job?
Yay! Boy, don't know what I'd do without you, Bill. Oh, yes, yes. Thank you. Well, I have to make up for how many lost meetings? Was that 16? I lost count. Thank you. Beautiful, Bill.
Cable car.
That was a surprise, and I'm glad to see you, Bill. I'll put all of this over here for later cleanup. Ah, it's been a long time. Okay, well, I don't know quite how to proceed here. You did throw me off, thank you. All right, the food bank volunteers, look at that. That is a great thing to show up for, helping others, people that are less fortunate. Once a month, we do it at the last Wednesday of the month with the new club.
Fourth Wednesday.
Fourth Wednesday, okay, thank you. And we all know about the main event, it's happening. So, that's great. Do you have something to say, Michael?
When have I never had something to say? It'll be a wonderful day. We're there. I mean, we are sold out. Congratulations. Congratulations to everyone. Good job. Now all we have to do is pull it off.
Linda,
I came back early.
thank you so much.
Naples is in ruins.
Back on the left coast, great. Where do we need help? We need propane tanks yet. So if you've got a propane tank, bring it down on Friday afternoon would be the best idea to the art center, or first thing Saturday morning. Full, yeah, full, please. Chefs, we don't have a lot of folks signed up for chefs, but I've talked to a lot of people that want to be chefs and are planning on being chefs. So if you're gonna chef, be there at 5:15. We're gonna fire it up and we're gonna put the lobster, start doing the lobsters about 6, because we wanna have dinner at between 6:45 and 7. How we set for spotters, we may need some spotters for the auction, so if somebody taps you on the shoulder for that, please volunteer. Bill, okay, good. And I think Mary was gonna be a spotter too, yeah. So that's good. Other than that, cleanup, cleanup is always the bear, so please stick around afterwards and help us clean up, because we need to get it cleaned that night, because they got stuff going on the next day.
So Mike, what does a spotter do and don't do?
So what?
What a spotter doesn't do, what a spotter's job is to watch the tables that are assigned, people who put their bidder catalog, hey, they'll have a number on it, and shout that out so the auctioneer hears it. What you don't do is sit there with this and talk to people at the table and be a comedian, Ryan Bauer, wherever you are. And flirt, Ryan Bauer, wherever you are. Your job is to face the table you're assigned and watch people, and they may do this, they may do this, they may do this. It's really hard to tell, but it's a really important job. And we need you to be loud when they.
Quite interesting.
What about massage? We do that too. We need to know their number. So when bidder number 1 shouts it out, if they don't hear it, you need to shout it out for them. So.
Gotcha.
The other important thing for a spotter is when somebody outbids the person you just caught, you gotta look back and, oh, come on.
That's right, you gotta coax them.
Yeah.
So we're talking bidders and paddle rigs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And we're also talking golden ticket. Who do we have lined up to sell golden tickets?
Well, we don't print it.
What? I printed them, I've sold 3, and there's only 50, and I think they should be at the check-in desk.
Okay.
And I'll promote them off of silent auction, but then I'll send them to the cashiers. So I think the cashiers need to do the money, I don't know if there's anybody.
Well, we were gonna have a couple of squares. Do we have those?
Yes, we have the.
Jerry, do we have a couple of squares for the golden ticket?
Mike does, we'll have one.
Yeah, we're good for that.
Okay, all right, good, because it would be nice to have a couple of people wandering around the audience hawking them that way too. We need to sell these 50 golden tickets, because that generates $5,000 in auction money, and it's probably the bidder is probably gonna end up with the main vacation, so we wanna get at least $5,000 out of that main vacation. So it's really important that we sell all of those golden tickets.
Well, I can tell you if Helene wins, she's going to Nick and Teresa's house, because she already claimed that.
Oh, cool.
So, and if I win, I'm going to Maine.
If I win, I'm going to Sardinia.
Well,
So, I mean, that's it, get there real early. We will begin 9 a.m. on Saturday morning with the setup. So come on down and give us a hand. Those of you on Friday that are helping prepare the boxes, we're gonna be here at noon or thereabouts, Marnie. Be sure and bring your own cutlery, bring your knives, bring an apron. There are cutting boards here. Chefs, be sure and wear long pants and covered toes.
Gloves?
And gloves, yeah, if you got gloves, bring gloves. I've got a bunch of towels that we can use for pot holders too, but gloves are nice. Those handles will get hot. That's it.
Thank you, Michael. I'm going to move on through here rather quickly because we're doing something a bit different today. We have a remote speaker that's going to be joining us via Zoom, and I have not had opportunity to try to do this before. Linda has a little something to say, it looks like, first.
President Diana, I did a makeup in Arlington, the birthplace
Oh.
of Uncle Sam.
Oh, thank
So
you.
that was a fun, their big project is a drone for the fire department and police department. Pretty cool.
Wow.
And in tradition, here's a souvenir from my trip.
Oh, yours.
A lobster for the.
A lobster for the lobster feed. Isn't that lovely?
Michael, I thought of you too.
Michael got a present.
I thought of you, out of lobsters.
Great. Thank you so much, Linda. So like I said, I'm going to move on through these rather quickly. We have the foundation celebration coming up on the 8th also in the afternoon. Helene, and you should have received an email. Helene contacted me, wanted to make sure that everybody has, who's coming has responded, so she has a head count for the caterers. I'm going to skip announcements. We've got coming events. I'll email these out to you. And moving along, I'm grateful for all of you. Do you have something you need to say, Brian?
Super quick, it's a mic
Okay.
off.
Michael's little buddy, my youngest son, he went all out for years to get a job with Spotify in New York City. He just started this week.
Oh, fantastic. What wonderful news. All right. Thank you, Brian. Okay, and next week we have, looks like Therese Macklin and Sam Tuttleman for the Palestinians. And here we are for this week, Richard Rocco. So let me know what I need to do here. So
Okay.
I have Richard presenting.
So Michael, if you could make Richard co-host, then he can share his screen, I believe. Well, that's in progress. Am I coming through okay, by the way? Yes. Okay, so let me introduce Richard. Dr. Rocco, he's an associate professor at Samuel Merritt University in Oakland. It's a graduate school in health sciences founded in 1909. He teaches pharmacology and a seminar in clinical ethics, and his additional scholarship interests include the history of pharmacology and medicine, and he's published numerous articles on the life of Jack London. And he recently, with co-authors, did a very interesting paper on the potential of sort of a forensic look back at Jack London's drug use. And it's a genuine scientific paper. He's going to present us with the layman's backstory, but it's a very interesting account of forensic science and how detailed it is. So Richard, are you ready to go?
I am. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much for inviting me to the club meeting. I appreciate it. I appreciate the interest and the support. Jack London's drug use determined by non-invasive surface analysis of objects owned by him. And this is a presentation of a paper that was published in the Journal of the French Academy of Science in Paris just about a month ago. The Jack London's use of opioid drugs and especially heroin has been part of the use, abuse, and potential addiction as part of a mythology of his background. This is Petaluma Argus Courier in 2018 discussing his drug use and how it affected his life and may have contributed to his death. Many biographers have embellished, dramatized, and sensationalized the use of these drugs, and the truth is yet to be determined. This is an article in the Press Democrat in Santa Rosa in 1977, in which they speculate based on a drug kit that is on display today and has been for many, many years at the Glen Ellen Museum. There are heavy clubs of South Sea warriors in the display case. The article goes on to say a sextant, telescope, and a tattered case containing vials of drugs, including an ominous concoction labeled turpin hydrate and heroin. Andrew Sinclair's a very popular biography goes on to state that the display case, which he refers to specifically in Glen Ellen, contains heroin, morphine, opium. In other words, he was taking the fatal uppers and downers of modern pill pushers. And then finally, in 1990, in a collection of essays by the Pulitzer Prize-winning American author E.L. Doctorow, his death at 40 was of uremia or stroke or accidental overdose of his painkiller of preference, heroin. Well, the objective of our study was to see if we could test objects that were known to be owned by Jack London, and did they in fact contain heroin, to determine whether he was using this in the latter years of his life. This is an actual photograph of the test kit that has helped lead to the story of Jack London's use of heroin. It is on display. I took this photograph just a couple months ago. Among the 22 vials of drugs in this case are turpin hydrate and heroin. And this is what has helped lead to the speculation about his use of heroin. We employed an EVA technology, which stands for ethyl vinyl acetate, and it is a standard forensic technology that was able to access through the co-authors of this study. And using the technology for forensic purposes, sweat and fingerprints left on objects, cloth, paper, leather, wood, metal, these dried residues, which last for, in some cases, hundreds of years, can be lifted off in micro layers and analyzed by gas chromatography, mass spectroscopy techniques to determine what drugs may be present in those objects. The technology has been published widely and used for historical purposes, not just forensic. For example, the authors that I worked with on this paper recovered morphine from a 1940 manuscript by a Russian novelist. Joseph Stalin, a book owned by him and read every evening, according to the history books. The pages of the book contain traces of a drug to treat bipolar disorder. The deathbed shirt worn by Anton Chekhov in 1904, a typed letter signed by George Orwell in 1937, which showed evidence of both suffering from tuberculosis because we're lifting off proteins and drugs. The chemical composition of the protective coating used by Leonardo da Vinci in one of his paintings from about 1515 was analyzed. And then finally, a small fragment of the Dead Sea Scroll parchment from about 68 AD. The difference between forensic and historical, which is what we're doing, forensic can snip off a piece of a manuscript, a piece of paper, a piece of clothing, and destroy it in order to analyze the content. We're unable to do that because of the historical nature of the artifacts. So the EVA technology, which I'll show you in a moment, lifts off a micro layer and allows us to analyze that. So the objects that we selected were in storage in the Sonoma Barracks in downtown Sonoma. And this air-conditioned environmental warehouse is where artifacts that are not on display in any of the California museums are in storage, and the Sonoma Barracks contain virtually Jack London's life and that of his wife, clothing and objects and phonographs, and of course, medicine kits and books and papers. Heroin is a trademark name. Its chemical name is diacetyl morphine. So heroin is simply a way of getting morphine into the body very efficiently because of the diacetyl nature. In order to prove that Jack London was using heroin, we of course need to demonstrate that he owned and touched the objects, but more importantly, we need to find the presence of diacetyl morphine, heroin itself, morphine, which heroin becomes when injected, swallowed, snorted, smoked, it becomes morphine. And lastly, the two metabolites that the body turns heroin into, 3-acetyl morphine, 3-AM, and 6-acetyl. So our goal was to see if we could find these 4 items together on objects owned by Jack London. We started with the Abercrombie and Fitch leather medicine case from about 1910 used up through his death in 1916. And there's sufficient documentation to show that he owned this case, it belonged to him. In addition to that, there's documentation that he asked in 1911 that this booklet on snake bites and how to treat them be folded up and put into the medicine case. And we found this booklet in the medicine case, and we wanted to test that also. This is the EVA technology. The arrows point out the small discs that are used, placed on top of the object to be tested, and these discs will absorb micro layers of drugs that may be present in the sweat and the fingerprints left. We tested 3 different locations, and we began to find a profile of drugs. In the case of the leather medicine case, we found phenacetin, which today is called acetaminophen. We know it as Tylenol. We found salicylic acid, which today, of course, is aspirin. And we found quinine and belladonna, belladonna being atropine, used to dry up mucous membranes, and quinine, which at the time, 1900, 1910, all the way up through the 30s, quinine was used to reduce fever. Yes, it's the drug that is used to treat malaria, but for many years, hundreds of years, it was used to reduce fever. So the EVA film testing of the vial of cholera on object number 2 was we took out one of the vials from the Abercrombie and Fitch medicine kit and found the same 4 drugs present. The medicine kit also contained an article that Jack London subscribed to the American Journal of Clinical Medicine. He tore this article out of the September 1911 issue, which is when the Abercrombie and Fitch medicine kit was purchased and used by him on a horse-drawn carriage trip up to Oregon from Glen Ellen. We also think the red arrow points out some blood stains on this article. Here we found the following: the phenacetin, Tylenol, aspirin, the quinine belladonna mixture, and we began to find turpin hydrate, diacetyl morphine, and the 2 metabolites. And we found the morphine. So this was in object 3, the first evidence that the heroin is starting to show up. However, it's showing up with turpin hydrate, and we'll explain the importance of that in a moment. Turpin hydrate was introduced in 1906 as an over-the-counter cold and cough suppressant, and it was found in the Squibb medicine kit that's on display. Turpin hydrate, the cough expectorant, was replaced by guanefacin in the 1990s. So turpin hydrate over the counter, it's not a narcotic, it's not an opioid, it is a cough that helps you pull up a mucus, And it is over the counter and available up until the 1990s, when it was replaced by guanefacin, which is available today in CVS and everywhere in cough medicine, because it's considered a little safer than terpen hydrate. Heroin, the cough suppressant, which shuts down the coughing, it was replaced by codeine in 1924. So virtually all over-the-counter cough medication contained heroin. It was legal, did not need a prescription, and was available without prescription until it was banned entirely in 1925, when it became illegal. Today, guanefacin codeine is Robitussin AC. It's available for anyone over the age of 6 years. The tablets in Jack London's squib medicine case, finally, according to the squib catalogs, which we investigated, contained 1.2 milligrams of heroin in each tablet. These tablets were swallowed, never injected. You cannot inject terpen hydrate. These were swallowed. The terpen hydrate heroin was also readily available as a strawberry flavored syrup. The dose of 1.2 milligrams of heroin in a single tablet is 30 times less what is required for the heroin-induced analgesia, euphoria, respiratory depression, but it is sufficient for cough suppression. So, this is a little bit more about his chronic bronchitis. This is just an ad from the Morning Call newspaper in Allentown, Pennsylvania, as late as 1934, in which they're still selling illegally Alexa terpen hydrate and heroin, and terpen hydrate and codeine. You could get either one, at least in Allentown. Item 4 was an empty vial of Formamet tablets, which are tablets being over the counter, widely sold. Once again, a blood stain, what we believe to be a blood stain. The agreement, I will mention, the agreement to do this work on these objects, which we received after negotiating with the California Park Service, they specifically stated in the agreement we were not allowed to do any genetic testing, only testing for drugs. And so we honored that and stuck with it. So we did nothing more than to lift off a micro layer and look at what drugs were present. And on this particular vial of Formamet, phenacetin, salicylate, quinine, atropine, and once again, terpen hydrate, diacetyl morphine, the two metabolites in morphine. So this vial interests us because it was widely available for treating sore throats. And the advertisement in the San Francisco Examiner from 1914, February 8th, I am tremendously pleased with the antiseptic qualities of your Formamet tablets. Formamet is a real cleaner of mouth germs, according to Jack London, who was quoted in the advertisement. We found a number of these vials. We tested only the one that had the blood stain on it. This is an ad in Cosmopolitan magazine for the Formamet tablets. Item 5 was a vial of cholera tablets, sun cholera tablets, dated. Because the vial was dated, we know it came from Bowman Pharmacy, and there's also sufficient documentation that this was his. He owned it, he used it. And we found, again, the terpen hydrate, the heroin, the two metabolites. This is simply a table of what was found. And for the atropine, quinine, etc., they can all be found in 3 of the vials in the Glen Ellen medicine kit. This is, the names change because of historical development. A drug in 1910 would be called X, but it would be changed to ABC maybe 20 years later. But nonetheless, looking up the item in the squib catalog, we know the composition, we know the concentration, and we found the terpene hydrate in heroin, the rhinitis half-strength squib, and acetaminophen, which is the source of the acetaminophen and Tylenol. So the results. Well, we could not confirm his use of opium on the objects that we tested because in order to show that opium was present, we have to find codeine because opium contains two addictive drugs, morphine and codeine. Morphine is then further processed in the laboratory to create heroin. So we could not find codeine in any of the samples we tested, ruling out the possibility of opium use. Opium, of course, was over the counter. It was the most common pain reliever medication available. The presence of the direct ingestion of heroin could not be confirmed for the simple reason that heroin diacetylmorphine was only found when terpene hydrate was present. This indicated the source of the heroin was most likely the oral over-the-counter cough medicine terpene hydrate heroin, the precursor to today's Robitussin. So in conclusion, I feel confident that if we make a number of assumptions, one, that he in fact owned and touched and handled those objects, two, the objects had been in storage since they were transferred to the California Park Service by the executor of Jack London's estate in the early 1950s. And these objects have been in storage, limited handling, not open to the public. The chances of others having put Robitussin on objects that we tested is it's possible, but not likely. So the source of the rumor that he used heroin, that he was a heroin addict, I believe is unfounded. I believe that the objects we tested demonstrated the presence of the Robitussin, what we call Robitussin today, and was not heroin ingestion. And although I'm not an expert in Jack London, I've published quite a number of papers on him and read as much of his work as I can. There's a lot of evidence that he used the following drugs, and they list his wife in her diary, which I've gone through, list the drugs that he's used. Today we call it Tylenol. She talks about that. But there is no mention of his use of heroin by either his valets, the two valets that were with him for most of his life, and his wife and others. So finally, I would like to acknowledge not only the Rotary Club for inviting me to do this and allowing me to do it online, but Noah Stewart and Ronnie Klein of the California Park Service, who gave us access to the storage facility, Dr. Righetti in Milan, who is an associate and friend of mine and a leader in the use of this technology on historical objects, and of course, Gleb and Svetlana Silberstein in Israel, who did the analysis and who invented, if you wish, these EVA technology discs. Natalie Russell at the Huntington Library for help in finding the documents. The Huntington Library contains the largest collection of Jack London material anywhere in the world. Susan Nuremberg for her constant support, a friend and Jack London scholar. My daughter, Denise Rocco Zilber, a fine arts photographer whom I take on all my projects so she can photograph. She did all the photographs. I pay the price and have to take care of her kids for the weekend, but nonetheless, she does the work for us. And then finally, Sue Hudson from the Huntington, Carol Dodge, who've been very supportive and helpful. Okay, I'm open for questions. I hope I didn't run over or go too slow or go too fast. Let me close this and open it up to questions. The chat room is open. Yes. Okay. How are we
What
doing?
was the origination of the original rumors?
The original rumors were mentioned at the beginning of the talk. It was Dr. O's essay. It was Andrew Sinclair's biography, and it was a couple of articles that have appeared over the years in the Sonoma and Petaluma newspapers. And others have picked up on it. I have simply picked the ones I'm familiar with, but there are many others. It's that romantic notion that he was a heroin addict and a great writer and living on the edge. And we do that to all of our writers and artists, I suppose. He was not an angel. He's not my hero. My interest as a pharmacologist is the drugs and the use of drugs and their influence on individuals. And in the case of artists, how do the drugs influence their art, either positively or negatively?
What was the original problem? Did he have any health problems that started all that?
I almost didn't hear it. Did he have any health problems?
What was the original problem? Did he have health problems?
Yeah,
Caused
yeah, that is he suffered from a long list of common ailments which many of us suffer from today. He caught the flu often. He traveled all over the world. He had bronchitis. He was a chronic smoker of 2 or 3 packs of cigarettes a day. He also developed in 1913, he had his appendix out at the hospital in Oakland and was diagnosed with kidney failure, kidney disease. And he died from kidney failure, uremia, in 1916, 3 years later. So he suffered from kidney failure for 3 years. And in 1913, through his death in November 1916, there were no dialysis machines. There was no effective treatment for failing kidneys. You simply died of it. It was called Bright's disease, and it was a common a death sentence for those who developed, for a host of reasons, sometimes genetic, sometimes poison-induced kidney failure. But again, without dialysis, which did not become available until the early 1960s, it was hopeless.
Dr. Rocco, I want to thank you very much for this fascinating presentation. We appreciate you being here. Thank you. Very interesting.
Thank you, all of you. I enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you, Charlie, very much.
Okay, now, we are, I need to get back to where I was.
Sorry, you can't do it. You have the bell.
Hey, here we are.
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle.
You're not sharing.
Except I'm not sharing. Where do I go to share here?
Just don't worry about it.
Do I have to escape out of this?
It's okay.
And Brent.
You can just talk, it's all right.
It's okay.
Yeah, just wing it.
It's my mess up meeting. I can screw it up any way I want, right? Hey, thank you so much. Okay, let's have our drawing. Scott?
585, 565. 551.
My job.
You're on fire. Okay.
Oh, you guys all look great. 3564.
Great.
God damn it.
It's a great party.
gives the red marble and you win.
Don't share it with red.
Oh, okay, well,
Bad.
good luck with this then.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Linda, for being here. I'm so glad you're
I
back.
had that feeling this would happen.
Okay, now, we have a joke for the day. Marty.
I think we just had the joke for the day.
We did.
Mark, Mark.
I'm slow at the switch here, I forgot I was doing it, but, yes.
I'm turning it over to my assistant, Terry Kelly.
See if I can remember this thing.
What is a hippie with many wives? How does he count his wives? 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi.
Thank you, very good. Thank you. Okay, it looks like, oh, I get to ring the real bell. Whoa. Sing first or sing with? Okay, we'll sing first. Come on, Lynn. Make this.